There was only one player nicknamed Mr. Clutch, and Jerry West lived up to it and more. He was a lights-out shooter, an expert playmaker, and a shutdown defender. The only player from a losing team to win Finals MVP, West finally captured a crown with the Lakers in 1972.
Everybody in this arena knows where that ball's going when the Lakers get it. To Jerry West.
Jerry was just extraordinarily quick, about 6'3", excellent jump shooter, but could penetrate, very wiry, very quiet, but effective player. It's always interesting watching him. He could pass very fast and hard, but he had the ability to cut through that middle and get to the basket with a variety of shots.
He was always hard on himself. He was very much a perfectionist. And if he didn't play the game at the level that he thought he could play the game at, he was not happy. Great defender, great scorer, great ball handler, great teammate, probably one of the highest IQ basketball players that I've ever been around. He taught me so much about the game.
He was considered to be one of the best clutch players, playing in the tough games. That team always wanted to have the ball in his hands.
2 seconds, 1 second. West throws it up. He makes it. Jerry West made it from the other side of the midcourt stripe.
Jerry averaged in one series over 40 points a game in the playoffs against the Boston Celtics. You got to be kidding me with that great team.
Jerry never got credit, in my opinion, for the defensive. I mean, he was an offensive machine, but as an offensive player, I hated for Jerry to play me because he was really, really good defensively.
Jerry West once averaged 46 points a game for an entire playoff series. That's still the most ever in NBA history, and yet that stat alone doesn't even begin to explain what he was as a player.
No, you can't measure him by points, rebounds. You have to measure his impact on the game, which is really hard to do. But you know, when we look down here at the floor, it's the logo. It's him. And how many people, you know, during the course of our lifetime that we've seen play basketball, but none of them have risen to the level and the stature that Jerry West has, that we look at the logo and we always think of him. You know, what he did, you know, on the playing floor, the teams that he played with and the people that he played against, the way he shot the basketball, going right, you know, had the pump fake. But then again, you know, off the floor, always very kind, gracious, generous with his time. And you know, man, I can remember when I first came into the league, as you know, I was a fan of Magic Johnson and also a friend of Magic Johnson's. But the Lakers and Jerry West really opened up their vault. And he was so kind and so gracious to me as a player, you know, teaching us about how to win and how to, you know, be champions. And then when I got out of the NBA and I got my first job with the Toronto Raptors, you know, he became a mentor, you know, taught me how to draft, taught me how to look at players. He and Elgin Baylor. I think I told you this before, my first, you know, pre-draft camp in Chicago, he gives me a call and he says, okay, this is how you dress when you come to, you know, the pre-draft camp. I mean, it was, you know, he's always been a mentor, always been a friend, always has given great advice.
And on the floor, he could do all that and more. Led the league in scoring, led the league in assists. Late in his career, when all defensive teams became a thing,
yeah, he
made those as well. What couldn't he do as a player?
He could do everything. I mean, like you said, defense, offense, you know, passing the basketball, and, you know, also was a great teammate. Played with Wilt, played with the great Gail Goodrich, the very underrated Gail Goodrich. You know, they were a great backcourt, you know, those two. And also when you look at, again, you know, one as a player, one as an executive, you know, when you talk about winning in life, you know, he's one of these guys who won on the floor and off the floor.
Still the only player in NBA history named Finals MVP in a loss. Yeah. And after that game was clinched by the Celtics, Bill Russell sought out Jerry West for a hug before any of his teammates. Yeah. And as you mentioned, a pretty good postscript to his playing career as well as an executive and an influence on the league.
Jerry West, that good, y'all. Young guys, do your homework. Check out Jerry West. What a player. All the way through. Olympics, everything. Jerry West is the real deal.